Hey guys, this is SimCity 5. It was just released March 5th. It's a great game. This is what you should do to get a $20,000 an hour income to begin, so that you can design your city with all the money in the world instead of having to design it, you know, with no monies. First, extend your highway a little bit, because otherwise people will get stuck. Like if you make an intersection right here, then people who, when they get off the highway, they all have to jam through this single lane. So the highway is 3 lanes, this is 3 lanes, but there's a choke point right here that's only 1 lane. So you give them some room to pack themselves back into 3 lanes instead of getting stuck off the highway. And now we're just gonna start with a wind power plant. Wind power is stupid and expensive, but it's the cheapest to start with. It's only 8K. And since we don't need almost any power, it's best to start with a wind power plant, and you can just bulldoze it later. And figure out which way the wind is blowing. The wind is blowing because you're going to want to put your water upwind, because you're going to want to put your pollution downwind, right? What the hell? How do I figure out where my wind is blowing? There we go, wind. And the wind is blowing that way, so I want my water to be way down here. And you don't have to worry too much about water because it's only 3,500, so you can just rebuild it later if you want to. So up here at the top, we want everything gross and disgusting, and down, because it's upwind, and down at the bottom we want everything yummy and delicious. So town hall obviously is going to be at the bottom, and sewage and garbage dump are going to be up at the top. Don't connect anything to this highway, just get really close but not quite there. Alright, so now we're out of money. Time to start raking in the cash. Oops. Stupid wind. And we need our peoples down here. So, hotkeys to remember, tilde is pause. So usually I just go at 3x speed and then pause whenever I need to. And B is for bulldoze. And they're so surprisingly, like, in the other games, you could hit a hotkey to zone residential, and there is no hotkey for that, so you have to actually click the stupid thing and bring it up and then hit residential to do that. Again, low density roads, first of all, because they're cheaper, so you're going to be able to zone the entire game much more quickly if you're doing low density. But second, if you make high density things, you need like high density services, and you actually end up kind of losing money on high density stuff, which is why casinos and ore mining and all that stuff exist, is because when you have a really tightly packed city, you can't really just fund it on taxing the residents anymore, because everything's so darn expensive. So when we want to start out with just tons and tons of money, we're going to keep everything low density. So the grid lines, they snap to whichever 2 roads you moused over last. So when we mouse over this road, you get grid lines that show this horizontal, and when we mouse over this road, we get these grid lines. So together they show us little squares. And these squares represent the size of a single building, right? A single high density building. But since we're not zoning high density at all, we can actually fit 2 rows of buildings along one of these squares. So right now we're making roads to surround each square, but in the future we're gonna want much bigger like this, so that we can get 4 buildings all next to each other instead of just wasting a bunch of space on roads. And actually, it's kind of funny, if you want 4 buildings facing each other, you don't actually want to use this snap point. What you really want is a little bit up, like right here, because the snap point assumes that there's going to be a road in the middle. But anyway, it's much more convenient just to use the snap point, so I always just use the snap point, even though it's not ideal. And you can make up for the lack of idealiness of the snap point later on just by making little tiny parks. So, people need places to shop. Theoretically, you should kind of alternate residential and shopping, because residential, I mean commercial zones actually act kind of like parks, in that they make residential residents extremely happy, which makes sense. I mean, I personally live in the house that I live in because it's right next to a store, so. So we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing until we've got lots and lots of money. You can see each time I zone a little bit more without adding any services, my hourly income just goes massively up because I'm gaining more money without spending any money on services. Roads don't cost a maintenance the way they did in prior SimCity titles. And it costs nothing to zone. It only costs money to build the road, but not to zone. So that's cool too. Not enough places to ship my freight. You ship freight basically externally through like seaports and trains and stuff, but mostly you just ship it to commercial zones. So he's basically just saying I have a huge commercial demand, and you can see that just by looking at the commercial demand. But I'm not too worried about keeping my demand stuff tight right now, because there's so much room left to zone that I'll worry about it a lot more once I've zoned the whole map. Alright, so the limit to your city size is basically traffic, which is why we're zoning everything low density, right? Because if we zoned everything high density and didn't have the money to spend on traffic reducing type things, we'd end up very quickly just unable to do anything due to traffic. So we wouldn't be able to zone the whole map. So by doing low density, we get to zone the entire map, which gives us a lot more money than zoning high density stuff. So close. There we go. No schools, no parks, no dump until you really need it. But we do want to fight crime pretty early on, because criminals gain levels every time they commit a crime without getting caught, and it's really important that you not end up with a bunch of super high level criminals in your city. That would be bad. So we've already got 8K a minute of income. It's going to keep going up. In general, until you have about 220,000 people, residents, you don't want more than one of any building type. It's just a waste. What I mean is like police station, fire department, all that stuff. And don't zone like the high density stuff either. Like the police district, even with 200,000 people, as long as they're well educated, you're not going to need a police district to handle them. Intersect with the main avenue as little as possible, but you probably won't be able to stick to that for too long. Oops. I should have zoned it before I made all the intersections, because that's a pain in the butt. So income's up to 10K. Our goal is 20K income. Once we're getting 20K an hour, we can start actually making a real city rather than this nonsense. And what we're going to do is just bulldoze huge swaths of the city and replace them with what we really want, which is something slightly different than this. Again, everything gross goes up at the top. Because see how it tells me where the wind is facing when I go to place my sewage? Yeah, there's a reason for that. You don't want to blow your pollution downwind. It's telling me I need more freight consume. I don't really care. We're just doing this zony thing. So we've got our vertical backbone, now we need a horizontal backbone. To get it, we can just delete this. Kitty bird. Just make our cute little checkered thing. Another trick worth mentioning is that if you want to, I mean, you do want to occasionally bulldoze abandoned buildings, especially like right now when you don't have a fire department. And it's much easier to see them if you go into the fire overlay, because they show up as bright red. So if you click this and then this, then anything that's abandoned, like this building right here is abandoned, it's going to show up as bright red. And you want to bulldoze abandoned things so that they rebuild them. Fire! Obviously we want our fire department somewhere central, like right here would be good, but also somewhere near the industrial dudes, because they light themselves on fire, because they're crazy. Them's be crazy. Do we have a police department yet? Yeah, we do. So we got police, fire, we want medical. Dun 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 dun. And we've got sewage and water, and we don't even have a town hall yet. That's crazy. Town hall takes up a lot of space. So you want to put it somewhere lots of space. Dun 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 dun. I don't need to be educated. I need a dump. Yeah, you name your city. I ain't naming no cities. It's crazy sauce. And the dump also takes up a lot of space over time. Like you're actually probably going to need 2 dumps by the time we're at 200,000 dudes. So save lots of space for that. All right, so this is basically it. If we fast forward enough, we should get up to about 20 or 30,000 income per minute, and then we're going to start de-zoning things and rezoning them so that we get the right mix of residential and commercial, because right now we just kind of zone things willy-nilly. It's important not to ever make too many residential and not enough jobs, because you'll get homeless people and they're really hard to get rid of. Because once somebody is homeless, the only way for them to stop being homeless is to work in a low density low wealth job, like, you know, work at a Denny's. And once your city is super dense, once you've got only sky rises everywhere, there are no Denny's left in your city. So the only way to get rid of them then is either to zone a little slum for them to work their way back into the city, or to ship them off to other cities using buses. Homeless people can ride buses to other cities. Rich people. So in order to get past like 100,000 people, you're really going to start to have to heavily use streetcars. Buses are great when you have a low density population like this, but in general, because buses drive on the same roads that cars drive on, if there's a lot of traffic problems, you can't really get rid of them by making buses, because there's too many traffic problems and nobody can ride the buses because of the traffic. It's the same, you know, like, it doesn't solve the problem. Whereas streetcars, these things that go on high density avenues, they ignore traffic altogether because they're right in the middle of the road, you see. So it's like a streetcar, yeah. Anyway, like bing, bing, bing on the trolley. So yeah, streetcars are where it's at. Usually, you want one streetcar depot for 100,000 and two streetcar depots for 200,000. And yeah, there you go. I really have fun leveling up Maxis Man and watching him arrest criminals and stuff. Oh yeah, and education. Once you decide that it's time to make your city really densely populated, education becomes like your number one first goal. So get yourself a 20K or 30K income, and then build one of each school type and spread them out across your whole residential area so that everyone gets to go to school. And don't make the mistake that I made of making like 3 grade schools, because once people start going to high school, for some reason they don't need to go to grade school anymore. It's really weird. Like, so if you have only grade schools and you have a city of 200,000 people, then you need like 3 grade schools with fully maxed classrooms to handle it. But if you add a high school and a city college and a university, then suddenly the number of people that need to go to grade school drops to like almost none. I don't understand why. But yeah, don't make 2 of any service until you're over 200,000 and you really know what you're doing, because other than the dump and the streetcars. So, trying to think if I've run into any other problems that took me a while to figure out how to solve. But I do not know of any. Obviously, like right now, the reason people aren't moving in right here is because there's not enough low wealth jobs for them to work at. There's plenty of medium wealth demand, plenty of medium wealth jobs for them to work at, but there's no medium wealth housing. And the difference between low wealth housing and medium wealth housing is parks. But when we're in this early stage where we just want money, we're not going to be putting down parks. That's just silly. Like, parks are great for higher density cities. They're like required. They're what allows you to get a higher density city. But when you're just in it for the money, you don't want parks. Also, another thing to note: once your demand kind of drops off, where your low wealth demand for all 3 is about 0, then you just want to raise taxes and wait. And there you go. So there we go, 20,000. That was our goal. So now we can just save up, $600,000, then bulldoze a big section of the city and start making a high density city in that little bulldozed area, and then bulldoze another area and make more high density stuff, and so on and so forth. If you don't think grids are pretty, I don't blame you. You can do the exact same thing with curved roads and cute little neighborhoods and stuff if you want. I've always been an aesthetics last kind of person, function before form, something like that.